I think that we do a decent job at promoting diversity. I don't think we're where we should be. Now, the question is, will we ever get to where we should be? I don't know. I don't know, because every time we make an advance, we see that there's another promised land. And whenever we get to that, we see something better. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think we should always push ourselves. Um, I think actually what would be much worse than just constantly fighting for the next step is to say we're done. To say this is it, that we have reached equality, diversity, humanity, whatever you want to call it. We've reached oneness.
Well, I define myself as African American or
Identify
Black
as
American.
a gay
I would define
socialist.
Haven't
myself.
I
Well, being that both my
financially
parents
my
are
my
immigrants
identity
from
is like
Nigeria,
I feel
I
like I'm so
had a
I would
complex.
say
So
before anything else, I'm human, but
I feel that identity is something we only associate with certain groups or we only associate with religion. I feel once we start, associating identity with every different aspect of life and start accepting more instead of trying to question.
Like labels are so divisive, and I've seen it happen all throughout my high school experience and even now. How people just get excluded or just by like how they get classified by their labels.
Like I'm not trying to allow that any of my diverse identities alienate myself in the classroom or in whatever scenario in which I'm the minority. I want those things to be something that I can contribute to the community that I'm bringing myself to. So it brings something that my diverse identities enrich the community, enrich the dialogue, enrich the space.
You're not just a lesbian. You're not just, a white Christian male. You're not just, the film student who really wants to make films. There's so many layers to everyone's identities, and it's really important to let those layers kind of express themselves.
So yeah, while I do identify myself as an Indian, as an American, as an Iowan, that's not the only way I identify myself. I think that if you just stay within any one of your definitions or in the definition of you as a whole, you don't become anything more.
I know that everyone's different, and there's a lot of variation within different people, and the fact that like labels are very much like, if you are a sorority girl, you're this preppy little happy thing, but like not every single person's like that.
There's this kind of the sense on campus that even if you aren't that stereotypical Christian Pepperdine student, you kind of assume that everyone else is.
There's a bunch of stereotypes that I think exist in terms of what a Pepperdine student is, and through that you get this very cookie cutter view of like what a typical student here is like.
Personally, I struggle deeply with feeling isolated and feeling alone in a lot of the places I find myself in. And like the classroom being like a really good example of that, because I, as like a Latina, like I've felt very isolated.
it's kind of hard because of stereotypes and how people expect me to like be a certain way or like live some like certain experiences because I'm South American.
It's honestly so crazy to think that we have this cookie cutter that we need to fit, and the minute that you're outside of Pepperdine's ideals, at Pepperdine's expected looks and behaviors, it's very much, shh, we accept you, but be quiet about it.
I've been confronted with comments about kind of about the gender roles that my culture possesses, or I've been seen solely as Kim Kardashian just because I'm Armenian. So I think that comments of that sort kind of really show me how important it is for us to understand where that person comes from.
I think one of the things that any university could do, but Pepperdine in particular can do, is just like check in with their students more, have more town halls, have administration show up to these town halls, have administration interact with the students more.
The whole fiasco last year with Dance in Flight and them censoring our show because they didn't agree with what we were producing, that really struck me as the step back from where I thought we were going with Crossroads, so that really disappointed me. There's definitely room for improvement, definitely even with the shows that they pick here, the theater shows. I feel like we need to do a broader range of shows that are more controversial, I would say, because people need to experience all different types of art.
I do think that there is kind of this expectation that everyone on this campus is Christian, or at least has been raised in that sort of household and that sort of environment. And I think when you don't fit into that mold, it's not so much that people are mean to you or they don't want to be friends with you. It's just more like you just don't fit in. You don't fit in the same way.
I believe, honestly, I've been accepted well over here. I've never had any interaction with someone where he was like, "Oh, you're a Muslim."
I think, especially recently, as I been a student here, I'm a junior now, so I've seen people, it seems as I've been here longer, the community has gotten more and more concerned with outside issues. So I think that's a great thing.
When people are so emotionally attached to their point of views, they only surround themselves around people who think the same way. Same thing happens in social media. If you retweet something or repost something on Facebook from a liberal site, all you're going to get in your feed is liberal kind of stuff. Same thing for the conservative side. All you're going to get in your feed is conservative stuff. So the only thing that's being filtered into your head is, I'm right, I'm right, I'm right. Look at how stupid the other side looks. It's come on, we're not going to get anywhere with that.
There is a fear that can come from acknowledging another point of view that might seem to put you on the defense, or that might make you feel guilty, or it might make you feel, things that you don't really want to have to deal with.
Whenever I came to Pepperdine, I thought it was going to be a really conservative school. And after being gender and race class, I discovered that I'm one of the few conservatives at campus, and there's so many liberal people.
The thing that kind of jumped out at me when I came to Pepperdine, the different things that they kind of follow all the rules and stuff. I mean, you have to have rules, but it was definitely a little bit more conservative that I had to deal with for as far as Pepperdine's core beliefs.
You find many liberals here in America, especially when you're moving from Kuwait to America. So any Western point of view is always a liberal point of view for the East Side. So I find it very common, and especially I have liberal views as well, so it worked well for me.
I think at the moment you have groups like Waves Against Ignorance and Black Student Association and various groups aligned with intercultural affairs, showing solidarity and organizing rallies and standing around Columbus statue, but you don't really have. There's a lot of blowback against this perceived conservative status quo, but I don't hear the conservative status quo defending itself or supposed conservative status quo. But it seems from my point of view, the discussion is kind of dominated by one side.
The graphic perspective in the newsroom, I think just in the communications division in general, I think it's known to be a little bit more on the liberal spectrum, and I think anyone outside of Pepperdine could see that, and anyone inside of Pepperdine could see that. And I think people kind of accuse the graphic of being that, but if you come up and you spend time with the people who are working there, you'd actually see that there's a lot of diverse of thought. So there's a lot of people who feel differently and a lot of people who see things differently. And on campus, we kind of get the heartbeat of how people see things. And I've noticed that people have come together more than it being divisive, in a way that people come to town halls and they speak their mind.
I know I'm not in the majority of, especially in California, and especially in the theater world itself, politically. But I don't ever put politics above my work that I'm trying to do.
Back to when the 2016 election was happening, and there was a lot of just tension on campus between different students, and I remember walking down Lower Dorm Road, and I remember a bunch of girls having some chalk out, just saying that, oh, you could write whatever you want, something that's nice and cheerful and joyful on the sidewalk, and it literally stretched for most of Lower Dorm Road. And I remember in that moment, I thought to myself, wow, this is a cool environment to be a part of, regardless of political differences or just different beliefs.
I mean, even in today's current climate, you have so many people who are very nervous about what's going on, whether it be in places like Europe or Asia or just even in America. And I think history helps inform us as well as give us hope. for the fact that these things have happened before, and while they may look semi-different because of the different cultural context that we live in, I think it's important. It's also encouraging to see that these things have happened before, and there are people who have gone before us who have experienced similar things, and each generation has their issue to deal with, and we're not alone in that fact.
Do you think there is some sort of common ground between all Pepperdine students that no matter what their beliefs or how they identify, like, is there anything that we all share?
No, I definitely believe that. I believe that there's a strong sense of community here on campus.
Probably not. Probably not, no.
It's going to be a Christian school, a fairly strict school, and really, really open-hearted, open-minded people.
There's so many fickle things that we have in common. Like, most of us like Chipotle. Most of us like Chick-fil-A.
Homogeneity isn't necessary for unity.
Obviously, I think on any college campus, the idea of acceptance is huge by your peers, professors, groups on campus, whatever it is.
I think everyone should be different and relish in their differences, but I think people should work to understand each other a little bit more at Pepperdine.